friends, Kim from Stamping Imperfection. I am playing with some Scrappy Tails Crafts goodies today, and these are some of my favorites. I have several videos using these products, and I just keep pulling them out. I love them so much, and I just feel like I have so many ideas with them. And this is the Assorted Leaves metal die, which is this set is an essential set in my kit. I've already pulled out the one I'm going to use. Then I have the flying butterflies, and I love this set because it's got the solid piece and the intricate piece that you can layer together, or you can use them separately. I like that it's got two different shapes of butterfly. Then I'm going to use the fairy friends, and I'm only using I love this one fairy. I was thinking about using that, but I'm definitely going to use that sentiment. And I did pull out a second sentiment. This is the fairy sentiment set, just in case I changed my mind while I was making my card. I do change my mind quite a bit when I'm making cards, so I always pull out a couple other options just in case. So I cut down some white cardstock, and I cut this down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I've already used my low-tack Pro Artist tape to mask off the edges. You can just barely see that here, but the tape that I'm using I love because it's just the perfect width to create a frame around your card. Now this is the die I'm going to use from that Assorted Leaves die set, and I've already die cut that 6 times, in fact, out of some Derice foam, and I am essentially creating my own stamps. I also saved these 2 pieces of cardstock that I die cut this same piece out of for another card that I made 2 weeks ago, and I save it because sometimes I use that for stencils, and I kept that out thinking maybe I'll do a little bit of stenciling here too. So I use this foam. These are foamies from Derice. These are about 12 by 18. I like to use them for placemats at holiday time. When my kids were little, they used to love to make placemats for the holidays, so that's what we would use. And here you can see I cut 6 of these out, and the foam cuts beautifully with the dies. And on one of these, this one here, I stacked 2 of them together. I just glued them together, and I put them on a piece of good sturdy chipboard from the back of a paper pad. And I wasn't sure, do I want 2 layers or do I want just one? So I did one with 1 layer and one with 2 layers. And honestly, it doesn't matter. I think probably in the future I would continue to do 2 layers just because it gives a little bit more room between the ink pad and my stamp, but it worked beautifully for a stamp. And you can see I've oriented that. I flipped one the reverse way so that I have stamps going in 2 different directions here. So I can make these leafy vines hanging down from the top and then alternate the direction because I use the back side of the foam for one of my homemade stamps and the front side for the other. So that's like another way to get way more out of your die sets, friends. Like, this is just great. Here's the Pro Artist tape that I was talking about. I just went on Amazon and Googled Pro Artist tape because this is actually my second roll in the last 5 years, and I just put it along the edge of my card, and it gives me a beautiful white frame around the edge. So this card was inspired. I went to Joann's after a bunch of doctor's appointments on Friday and bought a whole bunch of paper crafting magazines there, along with some foam to restuff my couch seats. And I found this card in there that I absolutely loved. And I don't have the things to make it, but it reminded me of this particular stamp because this is my favorite stamp in the whole stamp set. And probably the one I use the most, although I use that entire Assorted Leaves die set all the time, and I mean die set, not stamp set. So I'm just stamping my homemade stamps onto this card base, or this card piece that I created, this card front, and I'm using white embossing powder. I used my Color Hive clear ink, my embossing ink, and then I put white embossing powder on it. I'm just wiping off some excess in a couple spots, and I'm gonna wipe it off the tape very carefully because I wasn't sure if I heat set it on that tape how well it would peel off, and I want to be able to peel that off because I'm going to do an ink resist technique. So I heat set that and pulled out some Distress Oxide. So I started with this mustard seed, and I'm not sure what colors they used in the magazine, but it made me feel these colors. So I pulled out Twisted Citron, and I pulled out some peacock feathers. I'm just kind of making it go all around the card, and I just really thought this was a nice combination. That Twisted Citron adds a little bit of brightness behind that peacock feathers where they overlap, and I really like it. Like, I just wanted it to look like sun peeking through forest canopy, and I wanted it to feel a little magical, because that's how I always feel when I'm going for hikes through the forest. Like, it's just a magical place. So I finished that, and I have lots of microfiber cloths, and you can see that they come from Grove Collective. And I buffed up the embossed pieces and got the ink off them, so it brightened them up a lot. And then I'm just very carefully peeling off the edges. And I always peel it at an angle. Like, I pull the tape at an angle and go fairly slowly. And every now and then I'll get a little, like, where it tears a little bit. But this Mono Tombow sanded eraser just takes that, it cleans that whole edge right up. I just gently use it. If you don't have one of these, some fine sandpaper or a fingernail file will work fine too. But that Tombow sanded eraser is amazing. So I've got a second sheet of white cardstock here, and I'm going to do some ink blending on this because I want to die cut the butterflies from it. So I pulled out Kitsch Flamingo, and then I went around that and softened the edges of that with some sponge sugar. I'm sorry my table is wiggling so much. I tightened the legs, but alas, it's not really meant for crafting. But at least I'm in the air conditioning. That's all I have to say. I did sponge sugar around that, and then I pulled out this wilted violet for some nice bright purple. And I'm going to tone the purple down because it was brighter than I remembered it from the last time I used it. So I'm toning it down with a little shaded lilac. And so I'll go over the edges, like I'm trying to blend everything together. And I'm going to keep pulling back that sponge sugar blending brush or blending foam that I have there, just to keep smoothing out the edges. And it really isn't going to matter because I'm going to die cut this piece. And I did decide that I wanted to add a little bit of blue, so I pulled out Mermaid Lagoon, and I love this color. Like, it's just so pretty. So I added that and then went back in with that sponge sugar one more time to soften the edges. And then I'm just going to use this to cut out the two parts of the smaller butterfly in this flying butterfly set. And with the intricate piece, I want to cut out, or I want to try to get it on my paper so I can get a little purple, a little blue, and a little pink. And when I did that, I pulled out my Altenew mini blossom machine. I really like this little mini blossom machine because all of these dies I am able to cut out with this machine. So this sits right on my desk, and it cuts beautifully. I love it. I actually have two of these. I have one in my basement craft room, and I splurged when they went on sale the last time and got one for upstairs so I didn't have to keep carrying it up and down. Not that it's much of a strain because it's a tiny little thing, but it was just easier. And my other one I've had for 4-5 years at least. So I do use my magic wand tool from Maker Forte because it's got a craft pick on one end and a jewel pick on the other end, and I poke out all the pieces on that. And I decided that I didn't get enough pink, so when I cut out the solid butterfly piece, I cut out mostly pink. There's a little bit of purple there. I decided that I wanted my butterfly to have a little bit of shine and sparkle, so I just inked it up with my embossing ink, and I'm mixing some clear embossing powder with some white. This is, I think, Snow Flurry's Sugar Sparkle Glitter from Maker Forte. So I kind of mixed them together, and I actually wish I'd put even more glitter in there. Like, I wish I'd made it 50% glitter and 50% clear embossing powder, or maybe even more. I did get a nice effect. You can't see it very well, but it does sparkle, and it is very shiny. Plus, it made it a little bit sturdier. So I really liked the effect that gave. And I will not throw the rest of that away. I'll actually put it in a little container and save it for another project. So I just glued just the body of the butterfly to the base. So now I've got this card front panel that I've created, and I'm just adding double-sided adhesive, and I'm going to attach this to my card base, which is cut 4.5 by 11. I scored and folded it at 5.5, and I'm just trimming off the excess there. And those big Tim Holtz scissors are beautiful for that. And I'm just fussing with my sentiment to try to see if I can fit it in. And it doesn't fit perfectly. It is going to overlap the embossing I already have. So I'm actually going to overlap that, or heat emboss that sentiment in black. And I just got this new embossing powder from Stampendous, this new black embossing powder. I quite like this black embossing powder from Stampendous. It's really nice embossing powder. So I am using an embossing tool here because I'm not sure whether that ink is dry. So I want to make sure I'm not going to get black embossing powder sticking all over everything. And that embossing bag actually has little handles on it, so I never have to touch the bag with the powder because I'm super allergic to the powder. And so that bag is working much better for me, actually. And I'm gluing the solid part of the butterfly down, and now I'm going to add some sequins. I got these, I think it's Spiegelmom is how you pronounce it. It's actually a scrapbooking site, but they make the most beautiful sequin mixes, and I ordered a bunch of them, and they came right away. So I have to say I'm really happy with this little company I discovered, and I intended to use all of these for my scrapbook layouts. I've been using them on my cards because what a pretty combination. There's like a limey green, a little corally orange, some white, some blue. Like, I love the way this turned out. I think I've got, this is a single layer card and it's perfect. And you can see my homemade stamps, and I use the assorted dies, the fairy friends, and the flying butterfly. So I would love it if you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed. And also I'll put all the links below. If you just click on a link, that really helps me out. I get a small commission if you do purchase something, but just clicking on the link and visiting the store actually really helps me out a lot. So I thank you so much to all of you who are clicking on my affiliate links. Have a wonderful day, friends.